Hello and welcome to SEO's breakdown of Day 7 arguments in the challenge to abrogation of Article 370. Senior advocates Dushyant Dave, Shekhar Nafde and Dinesh Dwivedi argued against the abrogation today. Carrying on from the arguments advanced on the previous days of the hearing, Dave said that the President's rule cannot be used to reorganize Jammu and Kashmir under Article 3. He submitted that the Jammu and Kashmir Constituent Assembly was dissolved in 1957 without repealing Article 370. So any opportunity to remove the provision was lost, both by the Union of India and the Jammu and Kashmir state. Article 372 and 373 had already served its purpose, which was the Constituent Assembly had created a constitution for Jammu and Kashmir and chose to retain Article 370. Now, there is a counter-argument that India's Constituent Assembly had designed Article 370 to be a temporary provision. Dave addressed this, saying that temporary only referred to the temporary possibility that the Constituent Assembly may remove the provision. But of course, they eventually decided to keep it. Dave then drew the court's attention to the Bharatiya Janata Party, that is the BJP's 2019 election manifesto. Here, the party had promised the abrogation of Article 370. Dave pointed out that manifestos cannot be contrary to constitutional values. The ruling party could not abuse their majority in parliament to abrogate Article 370, contrary to the Constitution, to give effect to an unconstitutional promise made in the manifesto. Having made this point in passing, Dave completed his arguments. Shekhar Nafde then began his arguments with three broad focus areas. First, he stated that the core of the Jammu and Kashmir Constitution must remain. This included Part 2, which dealt with the state's relationship with India and the territory of Jammu and Kashmir, and Part 5 and Part 6, which set out the powers of the executive and legislature in Jammu and Kashmir. He argued that there is no express provision in the Constitution of India which allows the Union to abolish the J&K Constitution. Now, second, he focused on the reorganization of the state into the Union territories of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. He said that it was apparent that the President's rule was invoked with a collateral in mind. President's rule is typically invoked when there is a breakdown of constitutional machinery. So any act must be done in pursuance of the goal set under Article 355 of the Constitution, which is to ensure that a state as a constitutional entity must survive. Splitting Jammu and Kashmir and making it into a union territory was not in line with this goal. Third, he pointed out that there was a specific reason that Article 3 did not provide for the abolition of states. Article 1 calls India a union of states, right? The existence of a state, he said, was part of the basic structure of the Constitution. Jammu and Kashmir cannot be considered as an exception to this. Nafde went on to list out the consequences of reorganization. First, after reorganization, Ladakh has had no representation in the Rajya Sabha. Second, irrespective of its population, Jammu and Kashmir does not have proportional representation in the Lok Sabha. Third, Jammu and Kashmir has no MLAs in the Electoral College for the voting of the President. Fourth, the state also has no representation in the GST Council. Fifth, Jammu and Kashmir has no governor and hence will not be consulted for the appointment of High Court judges. He stated that by this very small act, that is, the Presidential Order of CO 272, the whole constitutional fabric of J&K was restructured. In his brief submission at the end of the day, Dinesh Dwivedi claimed that according to Article 1, though union territories were a part of India, they were not a part of its federal structure. A federal structure, he said, establishes a system of dual polity, where the local government is responsible for local issues and the union government for national issues. However, this was not the case for union territories, as they are governed by the union. So states and union territories had a different constitutional status. Dwivedi argued that Jammu and Kashmir was undoubtedly a part of India's federal structure, as it had elevated levels of autonomy. By reducing the state into two union territories, the union breached the federal structure and dual polity. It took the rights conferred on the people of the state and converted it into a unitary polity. A more detailed report on the day's hearings is available on scobserver.in. Make sure to follow us on Twitter, where we give contextualized live updates. You can also subscribe to our daily WhatsApp updates. We promise not to spam you. We'll just start your day off with the most important updates of the day at 9 a.m. sharp. Thank you for watching SEO Daily.